Hi, I'm Judith Dreyer. Thank you for joining me for this podcast series, The Holistic Nature of Us. I invite you to journey with me into a better understanding of the concepts behind our holistic nature and how that ties us directly to the natural world around us. My intention is to be your guide for this half hour as we begin seeing our world with fresh eyes, gaining more understanding and learning how we can connect the dots in practical ways that we are nature and nature's in us. I feature a broad range of guests deeply concerned about the environmental issues of our time and more. Authors and educators, practitioners and others whose passion for this earth and all species help us create sustainable bridges of understanding. These folks are innovators, action-oriented, creating solutions in a variety of ways that honor us and the planet's holistic nature. I am honored to share their stories, their projects, and their passion with all of you. And today, the holistic nature of us is going to go into a different direction. I'm introducing you to Susan Hoffman-Fishman, who is a public artist, painter, writer, and educator whose work has been exhibited in numerous museums and galleries throughout the United States. All of her public art installations and mixed media paintings concern current social and political issues. Susan's latest bodies of work focus on the threat of rising tides caused by climate change, the trillions of pieces of plastic in our oceans, and the wars that are predicted to occur in the future over access to clean water. She is also the co-creator of two ongoing, socially engaged public art projects, The Wave, a national installation which addresses our mutual need for and interdependence on water, and Home, which calls attention to homelessness and the ongoing need for affordable housing in our cities and towns. The Wave has been installed to date in 24 museums, galleries, parks, schools, and festivals. And Susan, I just can't say again how delighted I am to have you here as a guest, and welcome.
Thank you, and I'm delighted to be here.
Well, when I saw your website about art and climate change, I was really intrigued, and I would love you to talk more about yourself, your art, and what got you to combine both.
Well, you did a very good job introducing my art and what I do, so I'm going to focus on what got me interested in art and climate change. And I can tell you the exact date that I became interested.
Wow.
Yeah, it was March 11th in 2011. And it was the day that magnitude 9 earthquake centered in Japan hit the Japan, basically, and triggered powerful tsunami waves that reached heights of up to 133 feet. And it also shifted the earth on its axis. The tsunami eventually devastated the country and left people without homes and electricity, clean water. But it also triggered a nuclear meltdown in the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, if you recall. And the waves resulting from the tsunami traveled throughout the Pacific Ocean, including our own coastal areas in California and Oregon and Washington and even western Alaska. That's the preview of how I got involved, but really what happened is I started thinking about that wave and how visually, I could see how that one wave impacted so many continents and ended up here on our own shore. And I started thinking about a project that would connect people just the same way that wave did. And my friend and I, Elena Kalman, came up with the wave. And the purpose of the wave is to call attention to water and all of the things that are happening to water, but also to demonstrate viscerally how we are all connected and how we are all responsible for, for protecting the water. We are also mutually affected by water events like this tsunami.
Well, I think you bring up a very good point. We are all connected, and water is a part of our body as well as a part of the planet. And the two are inseparable, because without water we all suffer. And we have not been good stewards of our water. And I like how you said that we're not just connected, we're responsible for protecting it. And I don't feel we've really done a good job with that. I mean, there's just one case after another of polluted water here, there, and everywhere. And it's like, how did we get there? You know, why are we choosing to not realize that everything we do affects our water in some way?
I think it's a lot about greed, in the same way that, oil production is about greed. There are companies that bottle water that are taking it, from our resources, our collective resources, and shipping it all over the world.
I know, and that's another whole topic of discussion, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm. So you've created this wave. You've created a collection of work. It's not just one painting. You're talking about a collage of paintings, correct?
Well, the wave is a project in and of itself, and then I do this with my partner in art. We call each other our partners in art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And but I also do a lot of personal painting and drawings that are focused on water and climate change.
Mm-hmm. And you said that you've distributed those to many museums and galleries. What's the reaction?
Well, most of the, I guess I would say it's confrontational in the sense that the work is confrontational, and I mean, the response is not controversial. I mean, it's positive, but they're hard to look at. They're hard to deal with. On the surface, they're beautiful. I mean, they have beautiful colors and all kinds of interesting materials, but the message is confrontational.
Mm-hmm. Right, and so that stirs something within us. We either walk away because we don't like being uncomfortable, or we're impacted in such a way, as you were with the Fukushima accident, to do something.
Right.
And so, based on your gifts and talents, you've decided with your collaborator to create a project based on what we're doing to water.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And is this a traveling show?
It is. It's gone at this point to, let's see, well, as you said, 24 sites, but it's also over 5 states, including Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, Maryland, and I'm forgetting one. Well, that's it. I mean, you can look it up, but it's 4 or 5 states, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so they contract or invite you to display your project in their gallery or museum, and it's open and viewed to the public.
Let me just stop you there, because it's an interactive project. It's not something that we do. It's something that the community does at the sites where we go. And that's what unites all of the people who participate, because when they participate, the work that they do goes on to the next site. So it becomes a bigger and bigger installation. And when I say they participate, what they do is they take a piece of, it's about 1 foot by 2 foot, piece of polycarbonate film, and we asked them to cut what they think looks like a wave. And they work very hard on it. It's a very simple task, but they take great pride in their project, sample. And then we take them all into the individual waves and we put them together in an installation, and all of a sudden they can't find their individual piece. Just as much as you can't see one drop of water, in a wave.
Oh, how interesting.
And so, what happens is they begin to, feel the connections between other people and among other sites that have also contributed to the wave.
Do you happen to have anything currently going on in one of these galleries or museums in our neck of the woods, which is New England?
We most recently had an installation up at the Benton Museum at the University of Connecticut. The actual process, the installation process, that's over, but there is a permanent installation there that the museum kept.
Mm-hmm. Oh, how exciting. So that's at UConn, University of Connecticut, here in Storrs, Connecticut. So that's some place that people could look at their hours and go visit and see that particular installation, correct?
Correct. And we also have a permanent installation in Brooklyn it's in the lobby of a apartment building that Elena designed.
Cool. All right. Well, so now your other project, you have the wave going on, and you have 2 locations right here for now, but you also have the one on bringing attention to homelessness. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, that's one that Elena and I also did together, and she has a connection with a homeless shelter in Stamford, Connecticut.
Okay.
And we worked with them, and we worked with the city of Stamford to create an installation, and again an interactive installation that would show the public, what homelessness was really about and how it felt viscerally. So what we did was we went to 7 sites around Stamford, Connecticut, and including a homeless shelter and including the library and a number of other sites, housing project, and we asked each participant to take a piece of corrugated cardboard that was 6 inches by 18 inches, something like that, and to either write or draw what home meant to them. And very interesting responses across the board, and that's a pun, but unintended.
Uh-huh.
But we had preconceived notions. We thought that, when people who are homeless would create the project, that they would talk about homelessness and that sort of thing. Or if someone lived in a project that was, low income project, that would become, part of their statement. But what we found across the board is whoever created it, a board, talked about family and talked about what family meant, and what their home, whatever it was, brought them in terms of, safety and security, which was quite interesting. And then we took all of these boards that we created all over Stamford, and we built a house out of the boards, including a roof, 2x4s. If you can visualize a basic house structure,
Mm-hmm.
with a peak,
Yes.
And then we took the boards, and the boards were the exterior of this house. So it was installed in the lobby of the government center in Stanford. So people who came to do business there, and that business could include, anything from paying your taxes to, entertainment projects. The senior center was located in this building. Anyone who came in for any reason stopped and looked at the structure, the installation. And were very engaged with, they went very carefully around and looked at each individual on that, each individual's responses. And some of them were quite poignant, very poignant. And so, that project succeeded in getting people to really think about the nature of home and what it's like when you actually don't have one.
How interesting, thinking of home. Well, in the holistic model, if one part is weak, the whole system is weakened. And homelessness is an issue in our country that has so very much, and why it's still an issue, and people are starving and they're food insecure and etc., is beyond my comprehension, but it is a fact. And I can see where something like this Stanford is quite a large town. I'm sure there's a lot of traffic in their government center to get other people thinking a little bit differently about what home means to them. So Susan, based on these two projects, do you have any other stories that are related to this outreach?
I think that wherever we go, either the institution, the site, creates programming that goes along with the topic of water. So, for instance, when we went to an elementary school in New Haven, the kids learned about water conservation, and they created posters that demonstrated how much, for instance, how much water a toilet uses when it flushes, how much a dishwasher uses when it washes a load of dishes, that kind of thing. So the kids themselves spent a lot of time before we got there learning these things. And then the culmination was creating a piece of the wave, and the installation itself stayed in the library for a while, so that the whole population of the school could see it. That's one example. In Baltimore, when we went there on World Oceans Day, and of course the Science Museum in the harbor was full of activities that had to do with oceans and water. And our project was outdoors, right adjacent to the water of the harbor. And I think we had never had quite as many people participating as we did that day. It was a steady stream, of the public, and of all ages, of all races, which is true for all of our installations, of all, economic households, everyone was there. I mean, we had all nationalities, and because it was such a well-known spot to visit. And the pictures that we have show, really, really engaged people. It really is a program that draws people in because it's simple and it's beautiful. We use, these extremely bright, gorgeous colors for the material that we give them. And the wave extended, along the coast of coast. It's a harbor, along the harbor. It was quite a big project.
That had to be exciting. Where can we see pictures of that?
Well, we have a wave website. It's dedicated only to the wave, and it does have images from all of our installations, and you can find it at make-a-wave.com.
Oh, good. Okay, that's great, because I know my listeners like that kind of information. And we do a transcript for each podcast, so that information will be available. So it's make-a-wave.com.
Yes.
Cool. That sounds so interesting. I can't imagine what the harbor was like. It had to be buzzing with activities, but then the day didn't end because you displayed this beautiful art piece that you created.
Yeah, there's an image of the installation on the grass, a couple of feet from the water, and you can see a boat, the Chesapeake, very close to the installation, and you can see people on the sidewalk, tons of them, doing what they do, like sitting on a bench and walking by. And then we have a lot of images of the people who had participated. And that's another thing that we do is we take a picture, we try to, of every person with their wave. And we call them, our wave portraits. And eventually what we'd like to do is have an exhibition of these, from all over the country.
Right. Wow, that sounds beautiful. Very ambitious projects, too, because you're not talking about, a large piece of artwork, a 6 foot by 8 foot. You're talking about something that's much grander than that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Susan, before we sign off, I don't know if you have anything else to add, number one, but I always ask my guests if they could give 3 tips that my listeners can apply in everyday life based on their passion.
Well, okay, that's pretty easy for me.
Okay.
Number 1, don't use plastic bottles. Besides the fact that the bottling companies are drawing our water supplies for profit, the oceans and landfills are filled with discarded plastic. Take shorter showers to conserve water.
Yep, those are practical. We can do that today.
Yeah, become active in your local or regional water commission. I have to say that one of the places that we installed the wave was at the Connecticut State Capitol, and this was on the day that local community was fighting the Metropolitan District Commission, who in secret had voted to bring in a bottling company, and this was without any input or public hearings of all of the towns that relied on that water. And there is no state policy for giving first preference to residents who, in times of drought, they're extracting 1 million gallons of water a day.
Oh, my goodness.
I would say get engaged, in your local water commission. And most importantly, vote.
Yes.
Vote for candidates who support protecting the environment, and vote for candidates who are protecting, our precious water supply.
Yeah, and I don't think we can say enough about that. I know Friends of the Earth sends petitions out a couple times a week at least. I try to sign every one of them. It's not just about water. It's about, pollinators, and it is about water. It's also about the use of certain pesticides that we know are destroying and polluting water and soil, that kind of a thing. So I can't say that enough for people to find their pet project and vote every week that they can, because that's the only way we're going to make a difference. We can't stay asleep at the wheel, though this planet is precious.
No, and if you look at just that one example, this is a local water commission, and they basically disregarded the public and without any input. And we have to be on our toes in order to learn about and do something about that kind of behavior. So what we did is we took the wave and we made a reservoir, which is where they're taking the water from, on the lawn of the state capitol, so that people going in and out, to vote in the legislature and also the general public, would see it.
Wow, that's really something. I mean, that's really, again, taking a passion, doesn't matter what it is, and taking appropriate action, and that's how the holistic structure is supported, so that we can become healthy and whole again. It's very discouraging to me to hear about the destruction of water. I featured grandmother Andre, Nancy Andre, as one of my guests a few months ago, and she was instrumental in bringing the Algonquin water song to the forefront of awareness. She had permission from the elders to share the song, and it's a beautiful, beautiful song, and women in their tradition are the caretakers of the water, and you're caretaking the water from your passionate heart in your way, and I applaud you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. I also, in addition to my paintings, which we didn't get a chance to talk about, I write a monthly column for this international blog called Artists and Climate Change. And in it are artists from all over the world of all disciplines, poets, dancers, playwrights, fiction writers, visual artists of all kind, who are addressing water and climate change in their work. So.
Wonderful. So how about if we do a recap of how folks can get in touch with you and your work? Okay,
well, my own personal website is susanhoffmanfishman.com. You can read my individual posts on artistsandclimatechange.com. And if you want to see images of the wave, in greater detail than you'll find on my website, you can go to make-a-wave.com.
Oh, this is beautiful. Oh, I'm so grateful that you were here today. Anything else you want to add before we close?
No, I'm really happy to share with you what we've been doing.
Wonderful. Well, I can't thank you enough again. You also gave us some very practical advice, and I want to thank the listeners for joining us today. This is Judith Dreyer. I am the author of At the Garden's Gate book and blog. My book is available through my website, which is www.judithdreyer.com, as well as several distribution arms such as Amazon, Nook, Goodreads, and more. And again, I want to remind all of you that a transcript is available for each podcast. Please like and share them. Let's support each other and get the word out. And remember, now is the time for practical action and profound interchange, so we value our world again. Enjoy your day.